Are you connecting with me? Hey, are you connecting with me? That's my horrible impression of um, Robert De Niro doing "You Talking to Me." You connecting with me? You connecting with me? Welcome everyone to to Life Guides Connect. We are super excited for you to be here today. For everyone who is watching on the archive, thank you for clicking on this video, and hopefully you get some golden nuggets out of the conversation I'm going to have with two wonderful human beings. This is a wonderful day. This is the day after Mental Health Awareness Day. So we are talking about your guide to emotional well-being on this instance of our Life Guides Connect. I'm going to introduce our two panelists who are with me today, two wonderful, as I said before, human beings, but just people who I've learned from in my time here at Life Guides. Quick introduction. Hi, everyone. I'm Dr. Dave, VP here at Life Guides. Excited for everyone to see, hear, learn, change, grow, and just be present with what we're about to share today, which is your guide to your emotional well-being. So although I am affectionately known as Dr. Dave, we also have I like to say, fake doctor, real friends. That's a joke. Real doctor, Dr. Leo, but I'm gonna introduce him in just a moment. First, let's start with Renee. Renee has been in a leadership role of large nonprofit organizations, serving the blind and visually impaired for over 24 years. She is passionate about disability inclusion and equal access to education, employment, programs, and activities for all individuals. After a career shift, Renee now enjoys her consulting work as an accessibility specialist, which I can honestly say she's helped us here at LifeGuides with our accessibility access. She's also a key in audio description consultant, and she's a certified life guide, so she's always there for you if you need her. She is blind herself, but Renee understands overcoming challenges and loves empowering others to believe in themselves and to pursue their dreams. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Dave. It's great to be here.
Wonderful, wonderful. And as I mentioned before, my terrible joke, which was a Scrubs reference, Fake Doctors, Real Friends is actually a reference to the show Scrubs 20 years ago, pretty old, I know. But this is, I want to introduce the doctor in the house. If anyone ever asks if there's a doctor in the house, that's Dr. Leo. As well as being a life guide, Leo is a practicing physician, and as a general surgeon and ER doctor, he resides in Sao Paulo, Brazil. Being the son of a physician and a university professor, he spent his formidable years in the US, Argentina, as well as Brazil. Growing up, he had love of computers and basketball, even receiving a scholarship to a Division II school. Yet he came back to medicine as his way to strive for more, be more, and know he was more. Especially being multiracial and experiencing discrimination throughout his life, Leo continues to shine his light, support others, and I appreciate you being here with us today, Dr. Leo.
Hey, nice having me here. Sometimes I get a little bit, my English kind of mixes with my Portuguese, but nice having me here and nice to see you, Renee, and hope we have a good talk today.
Wonderful. Hey, listen, when Renee's bio talks about inclusion, so you know that means everybody. That means all dialects, all languages. So we're getting you. We're feeling the love. Let's go ahead and get started. Life Guides Connect is your opportunity not only to meet the life guides of our community, and also you'll notice some of the people that are in the chat are part of our community. For example, Dr. Emma. Hey, Dr. Emma in New Jersey, welcome. Our guides are here to support you on your well-being journey. And today we're talking about emotional well-being, which is a wide reference. So let's go ahead and call that what it is first, that it is definitely a wide reference. But we also know that emotional well-being kind of ebbs and flows. If you've ever met someone who's been constantly in complete bliss, I'd like to meet that person and also hook them up to an EEG machine and study them, because as neuroscientists, we want to find out how people are reaching higher states of equanimity and holding it for a long period of time. But enough about that. I want to first go to Renee. And I want to, just to give yourself a little bit of an introduction and tell us about yourself, a little bit about your background and, what brought you to LifeGuides.
Thank you. And I love the intro that you read to begin with. But I came as a guide. I've been a guide since May of last year. After, like you said, 24 years of working as the director of advocacy in a not-for-profit organization serving blind and visually impaired. And then we expanded to other disabilities and other barriers to independence. So a lot of years, and I did a lot of great things, and I loved what I did while I was there. And as anything cycles through, I realized it was time for a change. It was a very hard decision to make, and then I did it probably a year after I really, because it's scary to make a change like that. And now I'm in independent consulting. Came across LifeGuides, and I thought that looks really interesting because I did a lot of advocacy, but I also worked one-on-one with support groups and people struggling with vision loss and family and other issues. And I loved that one-on-one. So when I saw this, I thought this is really great. And I can honestly say I've never met a more amazing group. The guide community is just incredible. And I've never met a better group of people in my life. So I am here. And that's a little bit, and just rolling back a little bit further, you mentioned I'm blind. I have what's called retinitis pigmentosa, which is an eye condition you're born with, but it doesn't show itself until years later. So probably somewhere around the end of high school, beginning of college, I was told I had a lot of, eye checks. Why aren't I seeing so well? Night blindness is a hallmark, so I could never see at night. And I can't figure, still to this day, I can't figure out how anybody sees at night. But I was told I had a vision condition that would result into total blindness probably around midlife. So being a teenager, you don't want to hear that. I spent a lot of years in denial, and I had quite a journey to this point of just acceptance and embracing it, and to the point where it's just not a big issue in my life anymore. And I know people can't get their head around that, but I can talk more about that. But that's a real quick intro of me.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And I think it's important that we share who we are, and our identities. I'll speak for myself, sometimes can get caught up in all the ists that we are, psychologists, therapists, all the ists that we are, but typically it's just our lived experience that really defines who we are. So thanks for sharing your lived experience.
Thank you.
Leah, I want to pop over to you and also just give you a quick moment to share a little bit about your background. I know I gave a bit of a quick overview with your bio, but if there's anything else you'd wanted to share about your background and yeah, just a little bit more about your journey.
You did a pretty good job, Dave. You did a pretty good job.
I had help.
I think you said it perfectly. It's just, it's just like I wanted to be a basketball player. I love computers and all of those things, but I think what it is my father was a doctor. It really when I saw when I was with him going through the hospital and everything, that really didn't click or anything like that. I think you go through life, we go through a couple of experiences, we interact with people, we go through struggles, we go through happiness and things like that. And those things kind of, kind of digs on us a little bit. So one day I just woke up and I said, you know what? I was actually doing another thing. It has nothing to do with healthcare, and receiving bonuses and things like that. And I was like, where's my life going with this? And I was like, okay, medicine is really not in my heart at that moment. In my soul, was like, how can I make a difference? How can I make a difference? Which a lot of people make a difference, but from my experience of life, just like you said, what clicked on me at that moment was like, you can make a difference being a doctor. And that's when I was like, okay, if I play basketball, I was a medium good player. What's the difference that I'm going to make in people's life, and playing basketball? It's just about me in a way, which, I don't knock on people that go after their athlete dreams, anything like that. But because of my experiences, just like you said, my life experience, you know, unconsciously, I had my father, I saw him, you know, doing his thing, and that was a little seed on me. I saw my mother, she's a teacher, you know, and how she helped people. So I just like, okay, I gotta be a doctor. That's pretty much my little drops of knowledge on this thing, this subject background.
Thanks. I mean, first off, when you mentioned basketball, I was like, okay, this is cool. I also shout out to anybody who plays cricket or knows anyone who plays cricket. Interesting game. But I want to also take a quick pivot here and talk a little bit more, since we've done a little bit more of our intros, talk about strategies for maintaining a positive outlook and a healthy well-being. So I want to start with you, Renee, and then Leo, if you have something to share, please, of course, share it as well. But what are your strategies for maintaining a positive outlook? Because that can contribute to your emotional well-being.
Absolutely contributes to it, which is hugely important. Back when I was in college and I still had sight, I remember being in another student's room and seeing a book called Happiness is a Choice. And I'm thinking, really? I haven't even read the book, Dr. Dave, but at that time I was very skeptical. And I thought, happiness is not a choice. Through my life experiences and through things I've been through, and like you said, nobody's in bliss. Like, we all have challenges, we all have struggles, and it's not a linear path. This is, ebbs and flows through the high times, the bad times, and that is life. That is normal life. So how do we cope with those struggles and challenges? And just, I want to say that a lot of it is a choice. And I don't want to put anyone who struggles with clinical depression, because that is a real thing. And I have a teenage son who has been struggling with mental health, anxiety, and depression for 5 years. But so some of it isn't, but it's part of the puzzle. And it's a part of the key of, what do you tell your brain? What are you telling yourself? So if you're constantly negative, or if you're constantly ruminating over things that went bad or the mistakes that you made, instead of moving forward, it's like a choice to say, I have joy in my life. And joy is different than happiness to me. It's like, it can be a bad day, and I think part of that is acknowledging it, like, wow, that really was crummy, and I have a right to feel crummy, and I acknowledge it and let myself feel that. But then I also try to think of things that bring joy. The birds that I hear, the smell of someone barbecuing, the feel of the sun when I'm on my deck. So there's so many different sensory things, and just things that, it's going beyond gratitude. It's like taking notice of things in your moment that are really pleasant and pleasurable. And even if you do that once a day, I make a point of, if I'm brushing my teeth or in the shower, don't even have to write it down. It doesn't have to like take over your life, but something you just think about, wow, that was really pleasant. And I do that on a daily basis to try to keep that positive side up, because it is what you're telling yourself, what you're telling your brain is what's going to impact you, your overall thinking and well-being.
Wow. Right now the hearts are flying, and thank you for the feedback. The hearts are flying because
Thank you.
What you mentioned is right on the target. Especially with it being a choice and happiness and joy being separate. Recently, when I attended, or not attended, but completed the book of Joy, written by the Dalai Lama and the Archbishop Desmond Tutu, may he rest in peace. They talked about the difference between joy and happiness, and how we try to make the best choices, but we are geared towards noticing negative things faster than we notice something positive. So taking a break and actually noticing what's happening in your sensory environment is huge. From taking in the sunlight to just being there to listen fully for someone. So Leo, what about you? What are some of the strategies that that you use to maintain healthy well-being, and also being a doctor and surgeon? Like, there's so many challenges I can't even imagine that you have to face each day. So how do you maintain healthy well-being?
This is a great question. Great question. You know, I'm gonna take this a little back, take this back a little bit. I want us to analyze or think about something that is really relevant nowadays. You can have a great morning. You're in your job, everything's going great, and everything's awesome. You had your lunch, everything's just beautiful, rainbows. It's beautiful. You've got birds flying, everything, and all of a sudden you get a negative feedback either from a coworker or from your family or something like that. And then your state of mind. I know there's a lot of positive people, there are a lot of forward people, but your state of mind just changes in a second.
Mm.
That usually bad news or bad interactions, bad feedback, even if you're having a great day, kind of messes with your being right there and then. So how do I deal with that? Okay, usually what I try to think about, why is this affecting me so much? Okay, why is this affecting me? So I don't think it's already an automatic process, but why is this affecting me so much at this time? So is it personal? Is it something? And so anything that goes against our personal will or our personal spiritual self kind of hits us exactly what you know a lot, Dave, which is neurotransmitters. Okay, so that's I think that's the greatest advice nowadays. We can talk more about that more than me. Is you're realizing you're just getting hit with you're just getting unstable neurotransmission through your brain that's affecting your whole body. So this is going to sound strange, but I have 2 or 3 options. Usually, sometimes this happens during a surgery, or sometimes I'm doing on a shift on a ER. If I have an outside issue that's affecting me negatively, it has nothing to do with the hospital, either I try to breathing exercise, positive it's a positive thinking in a way, and I try to hydrate myself with a citric drink.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. This is something that helped me for the last 5-6 years. Once you drink a citrus drink, what that does, it helps your pH to go up. So your metabolism kind of fights this off. It's just something that I use for me. I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but those are the 3 things that I usually do when I'm finding something that has nothing to do with the hospital. Or also, if I'm in the hospital and doing something that's affecting me, okay, my energy is going down. I'm thinking about negative things. Okay, I'm not gonna hit this procedure well. Then usually I ask for a break, or if I can, I do my breathing. I realize that my brain is taking over, not necessarily my body, and I try to work through that.
That makes 100% sense. And that actually brings me to, I'm going to peek everybody a little bit behind the curtain. So recently we had our guides retreat, which is when all of our guides get together. We just hang out, have wonderful presentations. And during that presentation, we talked about labels for thoughts. And so I want to also include with emotional well-being that, thoughts and feelings, also play a role. And when you talk about acknowledging where you're at, it reminds me of this chart. I'll do my best to describe it. I'm going to do something a little bit different than we normally do, and share this. And we'll pop this in the chat at the end too. But this is a wonderful, wonderful wheel that helps you understand where you're at. To describe the inside, it's a concentric circles on top of each other. The inside circle includes happiness or happy, surprise, bad, fearful, angry, disgusted, and sad. That's the inside. Now each one connects to a larger set of potential feelings, emotions, and whatnot. And what I love about this is it gives you an idea of where you're at and how you can turn it around. So, for example, if I'm feeling fearful and I'm feeling weak because I'm feeling fearful, what's the complete opposite reaction that I could do in that, moment? Well, sometimes it's being radically hopeful, like I'm radically hoping that everything goes right, even though, sometimes they just don't. But simple steps like that, like labeling, identifying what you're going through, is a great way to maintain emotional well-being, because our emotions are driven by so many things, including the food we eat. So I want to pivot for a moment and talk a little bit about, uh, in your opinion, in both of your, your humble opinions, what role does the intake that we bring in, including, food and, drink, how does that impact your emotional well-being? Renee, let's start with you.
It's a good question. To me, that's falling under self-care, having an awareness of where you're at, what you need. I'm all about balance and getting enough sleep. Diet, I'm a huge proponent of nutrition and diet, and I think it can make a huge difference in your mental well-being. So eating healthy, what you put in, garbage out kind of thing. But to me, yes, eating healthier, staying hydrated, making sure you're taking care of yourself, all part of self-care. So we don't always do it, but I also think there's moments, and it's all in moderation and balance. So there's times like, I'm going to enjoy this piece of cheesecake because this is part of self-care too. I'm not going to eat it, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but I deserve this at this moment. I'm going to let myself have it and not feel guilty. But for the most part, most of the time, you want to eat healthy, absolutely, and making sure that does contribute to our overall health, which is going to impact how we feel. But I love the doctor's perspective on that.
Yeah. The doctor's in the house. Let's go.
It's just yeah, I think I talked about this a little bit just before. Citrus is really something very, very good for the body, in as far as in a whole. But I think there's something. Since we're talking about emotional well-being, we got to talk about food also, in a way that it makes you feel good. Also, sometimes emotional well-being, and we can go a little bit here in diets and all those things that are hitting us these days. Restrictions. I can't eat this. I can't eat that. I can't even imagine. I did some diets myself, not crazy diets, but I did some diets myself. But it wasn't. If food has something to do with your emotions, what you food has to do with your family. Food has to do with taking out your spouse or your loved one. Food has to do with fun. If you go out with people, you're gonna have food and things like that. So I think, and so also food has a lot to do with unbalance, emotional unbalance also has a lot to do with that. So balancing these two out, I think, it's a question of what is this food doing to me? Always ask this question for yourself. What is this food? What is this food doing to me? What is this love for food or love for staying at home, not going out? Things like that are messing with your emotions. What is the balance or unbalance of that doing for yourself, for your life? Okay. I I take that approach. I take that approach, especially when I tried my diets and everything like that. One of if I have a heavy week, uh, at the end of the week here in Brazil, we love doing barbecue. I'm not gonna watch myself on the end of the week for because of my diet and things like that. That makes me feel good. That's an emotional, let's say, emotional thing for me to feel good about a barbecue, about being with people and things like that. But all in all, I'm all for also what Renee said. You gotta be balanced. You gotta get some good sleep. You gotta exercise yourself. You gotta take care of your body. You can't neglect your body. That's for and foremost. You can't neglect your body, especially your mind, because it take excessive sugar messes with your mind, excessive fat, all those in excess, everything messes with your mind.
Wonderful. That reminds me of the joke, everything in moderation, but not to temperance or excess. And I'm glad that we're talking about the role that food plays, because sometimes just having that good meal is so rewarding. And we know that the reward system, the dopaminergic system, where we receive the dopamine, that system, whenever we eat something really good, that's why we're like, oh, this is wonderful. It just sprinkles us with these feel-good chemicals.
And I tell you something else, the dopamine doubles or triples when you're having something that you like and you're sharing with somebody that you love. The dopamine doubles and triples. So that's something interesting also.
That is interesting. I'm glad you mentioned that, because what you're also highlighting there is the importance of having connection. And, yes, it's in our name, LifeGuides Connect, but right now people are struggling when it comes to connection. There are even apps where you can, rent a best friend or find a best friend, because isolation is basically the new epidemic, and it is contributing, I believe, to the degradation of emotional well-being for many people, because they don't have someone to connect with. So Renee, how important has it been for you to find community, to find support, and to find other people to connect with?
That is the key. And I'm so glad you brought that up. I just listened to a podcast the other night from the Surgeon General, who says in America, the main epidemic, the problem is loneliness. And when you think about it, there's so many people in the world, and people are suffering and struggling from isolation and loneliness. And so it is so important. I think so many things contribute to that, the pandemic and staying home and remote, but I love remote work, but also people staying home, and people aren't joiners anymore. They don't go to groups. You don't check on your elderly neighbor like you used to. So I think making a conscious effort to find your tribe. So when you are going through whatever, you want to find somebody who's gone through it, who's made it through it, and is going to tell you it's going to be okay. So I remember when I went through vision loss, I needed to find someone who was blind, who was successful, had a career, had a full life, and was happy. And I remember connecting to that person, and she had been a mentor to me for years. And then just joining groups and talking to other people and sharing those struggles and triumphs, because that is so important to feel like you can't do it alone. We can't thrive by ourselves. We have to have community around us to support us. And there's so many ways to find our tribe. And it could be in person, but it could be like LifeGuides. It could be like finding that person who's gone through what you've gone through, message boards. But that's why support groups are so extremely successful, because people need that in their lives to thrive. So that's what I've done. When my fourth child was diagnosed with autism, I was devastated by that. So I found a community of parents who've been raising children with autism, who've been through it, who knew the struggles and had tips. That is the key to, I think, thriving from where you are and just having that support. And sometimes you have to go look for it, but it's really worth it.
100% it's worth it. And Leo, you come from experience of having communal, meaning like working together on teams. Speaking about basketball, like that, there's a community within that. You also come from the community being a physician and surgeon. There's teaming in that and community in that. How important has maybe other groups or other other connections been for your development of your emotional well-being?
That's a great question. That's a great observation, Dr. Dave. That's exactly how I got my emotional emotional stableness. Let's just put it that way. The people I interact when I play basketball had a way of looking into life and looking into their struggles on and off the court. The people that I hanged around when I was dealing with computers had their way of dealing with issues, and the people in healthcare has another way of dealing with struggles and issues. So I feel blessed, to be honest, really blessed to have blended in all these environments, because that's how we really get tough skin, or that's how we really get stable emotionally, is when you go through issues or you go through experiences or you interact with other people that has different outlooks in life or deal with things in a different way. That I really, it's really touching to me. You asked me this because I wouldn't be a great doctor if I didn't go through all that I've go. There's people that I find it awesome and great. Little kid or little girl that 13, 14, and they're like, I want to be a doctor, okay, and they go through life, experience that, and dealing with that. It's awesome, but I really feel blessed of going through different scenarios and environments that I look back and I say, wow, I did that, I went through that, I dealt with that, and it makes me more stable now. And I tell you the truth, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. It's not easy coming out with a surgery and telling a family member, they didn't make it.
Yeah.
I went through a lot of issues during COVID. A person would come into the hospital just great, not smiling, but having some minor issues with COVID, and then the next day, 2 days later, next day, they didn't make it, and I have to, call the parent. That takes a lot of emotional resilience and stableness to deal with that, and I'm not talking about just that. There's a lot of people here nowadays working 2 or 3 jobs, and they got to get home and still they got to smile to their kids. You got to make their kids okay. This is the time that I have for you, son, daughter. 5 minutes. It's 11 at night, and that takes a lot of strength. Also, I really respect all these people that are going through 2, 3, 4 jobs, and the time with their kids is, and with their loved ones. Also, people that don't have kids. It's 5, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and they got their smile on their face. That takes a lot of emotional resilience, resilience. And also, I'm concerned, just like you said, there's a lot of people isolating themselves. Depression is an all-time high, and isolation, and a lot of people go through hard things. And one thing that I came into this life really concerned about, that I want to get out there, is that if you're young or you're old, it doesn't matter. If you have, please take care of yourself. If you have in your family history of depression, because a lot of people don't realize depression is also hereditary.
Hereditary, yeah, it's passed down in some ways.
So really take care of yourself. If you see, if you have signs in your family, really, step ahead of that. Okay, I gotta get myself with the tools. I gotta get myself, one of the things that I really like that works really well. This is scientifically proven. You gotta, people that have issues with low emotional states, you gotta have an exercise plan in place. You gotta do some time of exercise. Find some time of physical exercise for you to do that clears your neurotransmitters. It just releases everything throughout your body. So I'm talking too much. I'm gonna let you have it.
No, you're speaking my language. You're talking about endorphins. I love talking about that fun stuff. But when you do mention about everyone exercising, I always encourage people, because everyone has different levels of physicality. And so typically when people hear exercise, they think I have to go to the gym, I have to spend an hour. And no, dancing, dancing in your room to your favorite song is movement. Walking around the neighborhood is movement. Going to walk the dog, that's movement. And it's whatever, helps you. For example, for me, for my emotional well-being, when I'm transitioning either in between clients, I'll do a core blast, which means I'll do like a set of sit-ups or something like that, or crunches. or some squats or something like that, because I know as soon as I do that, when I come back, my blood's flowing. I'm a little bit more warmer. I don't have that closed view. We sit a lot in America and around the world. We sit a lot, and your body just needs to move. It does so much better for your emotional well-being. And speaking of moving, and I heard we talked about kids a little bit. I want to tip a little bit into what I'm noticing as a father of two teenagers is the challenges of getting the youth to get out, to to do things other than playing their video games, Oculus, PS5, Xbox, or Steam, for all the gamers out there. How do we get them out, and also how do we improve the youth's emotional well-being when internet culture is not supporting being a emotionally stable or resilient person? It's a really complex question, but I'd just like for you, let's start with you, Renee, to just wherever you see that it fits you, share what you feel.
Yeah, this is near and dear to my heart because just mental health and I raised 4 teenagers. My third one down when he got to 15, and as I mentioned before, he'd been struggling with mental health. And it's just not uncommon for his age group. He went through the pandemic. He was a junior and senior at that time, but the kids became so isolated. And it's still like in the room all the time, not face-to-face interaction with friends. It's like gaming, gaming, gaming. It's almost like they don't even know how to talk to each other face-to-face anymore. And just, I try to encourage him to get out, get some sunshine, the vitamin D, like you guys talked about, movement, but moving your body and exercising. There's something that is released that will help you mentally feel better. It's not one thing that does it. It's not just the medication. It's not just the therapy. And I know with my son, I think he thought he was going to take a couple of, happy pills, they call it, you know what I'm saying, antidepressants. Take those and then you're going to feel better. Oh, it's not working. Well, it's a piece of the pie. So you got to think about the whole thing, but it's been a struggle. And, he was hospitalized a few times. The mental health system, I got a really close up view of the mental health system and how broken it is. And nobody should wait in this adolescent psychiatric for 3 days before you're going to be seen by a doctor. And it's exactly what we went through 3 times in 4 months. We're kids, like adolescents, this is a whole other topic, sleeping on the floor because it's a waiting room. It's not a place to sleep. There's no beds. It's like, that's what it takes to get just admitted into the hospital to be seen by a doctor if you're having any type of suicidal thoughts, right? So that's what we went through. So like, okay, we're going to avoid that. So let's, it's always talking about trying to keep him balanced, going to school, going to work, but not getting so overloaded that now he's starting to crash again. So it's tricky. And he said a lot of his friends are going through this. This is not very uncommon, which is very enlightening and very scary to me. But that's why mental health is just such a huge thing right now and why so many people are struggling.
Oh, no doubt. And I'll also share that when it comes to getting those kids to move and getting them to actually kind of get into new routines, it can be challenging at first. It is. And I introduced a meditation practice, 5 minutes. It wasn't a lot. And it's kind of a fun yoga nidra, more noticing, the body and a little more of the self-awareness. And it's difficult for kids and adults to take a break and do that. But I want to bounce to you for a second, Dr. Leo. Have you noticed or have you come across, challenges from, people that you've served or even people that you've mentored or supported? Have you noticed that there's a direct connection to the amount of video games and stimulation they're getting to the emotional challenges that they may be experiencing?
Great question. Great question. Renee really touched on, overall, this is something that we're going to have to get used to. It's kind of sad to say this.
Okay.
But as Renee was talking, what I remember, this is kind of crazy, but what's been happening is it's going to be hard to take a stand because corporate companies and the digital age is really taking over. It's really going to have to take an effort from everybody to really kind of change things. Okay, so sometimes we're kind of, this is going to sound harsh, but we are being permissive to society to make we taking care of kids or accepting what kids are giving us now. What do I say this? Do you really want to get delivered a pizza with no driver? Do you really want to go into a restaurant where there's no waitresses or waiters? I mean, you want to get in your car and you don't want to drive it? You want to be on your phone or whatever? You want to be, so this is what's going on in as far as, okay, I'm gonna put my kids in school. Okay, he's gonna have to go deal with the computer that's gonna show him this, and that. I see. So personally, what do I see in my workplace as far as adults? I see very little patience. The patience, people will pay very, very low in patience, and of course the emotional states. Now, I remember every weekend. This is when I lived in the U.S. This is kind of crazy. My parents, we took walks and we hiked and we went places. Okay, we went places. My father took time and my mother took time. Okay, we need to go out. We need to do this. We need to. I lived in Maryland. There was a lot of creeks and parks and hikes that we did. What's going on nowadays? We're so stuck, exactly what you just said. We're stuck to our chairs. On the weekend, we want to say, okay, I don't want to do anything. This is also as far as parenting goes. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sit here. Oh, yeah, go out, do something over there. This has been a struggle. It's going to be a struggle for years to come. Is since we're so home office now, not me in a way, but I really do a lot of work online, also dealing with, everything's digital. This is one thing that I hate so much. Also, I'm talking to a patient and I have all the time. So as far as kids, really, I'm really speechless because we're being kind of permissive. I'm going to be honest with you. I see this around my colleagues. It's the permission of, don't bother me. Here's the cell phone. Don't bother me. Unconsciously, you say this. You kind of smile at your kid, but oh, you can play a little bit here. Oh, go play your video game, no problem. Things like that. You got to get out there. You got to play that basketball. You gotta walk. You gotta ride that bike, and you gotta set limits. Okay. My father did a limit with me. It was pretty interesting. It was like this: the time they spend reading, it's gonna be the time you play anything electronic.
Oh yes, I'm familiar with that, with that agreement.
It was an awesome agreement, and truly, he's passed, but it's something that I don't see at all today, and I don't see anything close to that as far as kids. And I'm around my colleagues that are doctors and everything, and it's crazy.
And I like that you mentioned that it's permissive, because we are. It's really a systematic consciousness thing where it's the norm to provide a child under the age of 5 with a screen. And I'm not knocking anyone who's done that, so please don't take it as that. I've also done it myself, but I've had to take a step back and look at what is the overall, like, what precedent am I setting for this child to have this. And working with the disability community, I've learned that it's different for different people. For example, anyone who has a child with autism knows that they can and are more likely to abuse screens, meaning they're more likely to spend more time on it, to be overstimulated. I don't know if anyone's ever played Super Smash Brothers, but I can only play that game for like 5 minutes before my brain starts to melt because it's a lot going on. And I love video games, but it's a lot going on. So what happens to the mind of a child when, you know, when the screen is just basically taking up much of their time? And so there are ways that we can support each other by changing our thought process, changing the systems. And I wanted to ask you, Renee, talking about the disability aspect is, you know, what does like the Disability Employment Awareness Month, you know, mean to you? Like what changes do you see happening there, and what does it mean to you?
Great questions, Dr. Dave. And I want to go back just to touch upon technology before I answer your question, is
Go
that
for it, go for it.
it's not like you said, it's not all bad. It's about moderation and balance like anything in life. But for people with disabilities, technology has opened doors and created accessibility. So things that I could not do before because of technology, paying my own bills, shopping online, jumping into a meeting in Washington to do some advocacy, boom. Like the pandemic created opportunities for people who had disabilities. It created jobs we've never had before. So there's that silver lining. So I just wanted to say it's all moderation. Obviously, you're not going to put your kid as a babysitter in front of the screens, but a little bit at a time and not overload, and balance. Balance outside, balance with friends face to face, time on the screen, time with family. So it's really how you use it. It's not that it's a bad thing in itself. It's how you use it and how it is balanced in your life. And yes, thank you for bringing that up. October is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. What does that really mean? So it's the 1 month where that is designated to commemorate and to celebrate the accomplishments of individuals with disabilities in American workplace and to the economy. So like, you know, hiring people with disabilities can really hugely impact you know, employment in your company. And sometimes it's overlooked, but, you know, from the Americans with Disabilities Act from 1990 of not having discrimination. But I think now with access and equity is the same. And you can't have equity without access. So if you have a disability and you need special accommodations, like I would use assistive technology, then it needs to be accessible, the websites or the portal or the database that you're using. So the more accessible the community society is becoming, the more disabilities do not have an impact on keeping people with disabilities from accessing programs, services, employment, schooling, everything everyone else enjoys. So October is the month to celebrate it, to educate others about it, and to really make a commitment to have a place of inclusion in your workplace. So I love this, and thank you for bringing that up, because it's huge for those of us who happen to have a disability.
I like that you mentioned happen to have it. You know, it doesn't define it. Just, you know, just happen to have it. And some disabilities can be invisible.
That's right, Dr. Dave. And that is it. To me, it is a difference. And for someone who's viewing someone with vision loss, they think, wow, that's a huge, a sensory disability seems like a huge, but it doesn't even seem like a disability to me. It is a difference. And you're right, they can be invisible at times. People have their own struggles. But to me, it's just a difference, like autism, like any other. We're all differences. Let's embrace each other. We might do things in different ways, but I have a full life, you know, career as a mom, as a wife, cleaning the house, and those assumptions. And I think sometimes the employers make the assumptions, if you have a disability, you can't do X, Y, or Z. And this is what we want to educate. They don't even know about assistive technology. They don't understand how someone without vision or hearing or a physical mobility disability could possibly perform the essential functions of the job. But here we are to educate and say, yes, we can. Let me show you how. And I love having that conversation. And I invite that at interviews and saying, do you have any questions about how I would do my job? Do you have any, you know, questions about my assistive technology and how that works? Because if you invite that conversation, they're going to be more likely to be open to, sometimes they're afraid to even ask that question. And I'm here to say, I'm open. I'm here to talk about it. Let's have that conversation.
Yes, let's have those hard conversations. And you know, we're coming down to the end. This has been a wonderful event course, continuing to learn from both of you wonderful individuals. But I want to take these last couple of minutes and kind of dream for a moment. Let's dream, because we're dreaming of a time where people they have a better control over their emotions. Not saying that they're suppressed. You know, of course, we want people to use adaptive, not maladaptive strategies to repress emotions or to maybe, you know, dissociate. We want people to experience your emotions, feel your emotions, but how can you move through them in a positive way where you can learn and grow from it? So I wanted to ask both of you, if you could change anything in the world, and I'm gonna start with you, Leo. If you could change anything in the world, what would it be?
That's a hard one. That's really hard. I would change. Um, I would slow down technology.
That's fair. That's fair. I want to hear a little bit more. We have a bit of time. Tell me a little bit more about what you mean by slowing down.
Not necessarily slow down technology to help and to make people, you know, more insertive to the world, but slow down technology as far as trying to make everything so easy in a way, as far as you know, man, you know, I'm just having so much flashbacks of my childhood. It's just amazing. You know, I just recalled my father in Maryland, where they used to go to door to door. There were some people that used to go to door and sell the Britannica encyclopedia. You guys remember that? I feel old now.
It's a deep reference.
Remember
Anybody over the age of or under the age of 30 has no idea what we're talking
No
about.
idea what I'm talking about. So this guy comes in and shows this Britannica, a piece of the Britannica. She had gold around it and everything, and you know, the person just like opened it up, and I was like, "What? I can learn anything going through this?" I was
Mhm.
just starstruck. You know, I wanted to. You know, my father. We didn't. He was doing some. He was doing specialization in the U.S. for a while, so money was like really set. But he's like, okay, I'm gonna give an effort, and I'm gonna buy this for you. So why do I mention that? It's just that technology has taken away that time for reflection. You
Mm.
know, time for
Okay.
reflection is just killing. It's killing relationships. It's killing relationship with your loved one, with kids, with your co-workers. You know, I used to love flip back. I still do. I love flipping magazines. You know, whatever it is, something that I like. I got to do this through an iPad now. I mean, it's there's a neurological connection once you turn the. I mean, I don't knock. I do have whatchamacallit, the little Kindle thing. I use that. I'm not gonna knock anybody that uses that, which is a great tool. But there's a neurological connection once you turn the page, once you look at the picture, once you know, how many people have like 2, 3, 4,000 photos on their phone, and they didn't take over to whatever to get it reviewed, and so you can look through it with your hands. A lot of people have like so many things stuck in their computer. I myself, and I have like 10,000 photos on my phone, and you know, vacations and going here and going there. I haven't taken the time to have it printed so I can just stop and look at it. So if I
Yeah,
could
the
change
tactile.
that, so I could change the fast forward of technology in a way, I think.
I like that you brought it back to time for reflection. I think that's hugely important, is for changing the world, is giving people time for reflection. And you know, I want to take a moment also and pass it over to you, Renee. What about you? What would you change?
I was watching the chat and listening to Dr. Leo, and people are saying they would change self-hate. They would
Yeah, I saw that.
change
It's wonderful.
empathy. I would change, yeah, people's hearts and minds. in terms of, and that self-hate's important. Like, how do you, when I talked before about how you talk to yourself, we show compassion to friends going through hard times, but what do we tell our own brains? How tough we are on ourselves. Oh, that was stupid. Why did I do that? And that self-hatred of maybe mistakes that you've made or things that you're tough on yourself. It's like, stop doing that. Give yourself compassion and love. And that's part of self-care so you can move forward and heal. Not that you're, you got to learn from it. We all live and make mistakes and move forward. So live and learn, right? So change the way people's minds are, but also how we view other people and to have empathy for people. We only seem to have empathy when we go through something or it happens to someone we love. Because why do we think about something before it really impacts our life? We don't. So until we have a family member dying of cancer or a child diagnosed with a disease or us getting diagnosed with something, we don't even think about it. And then suddenly we have empathy and want to teach others and educate and wish people had more empathy for things that maybe they're not experiencing directly.
Empathy is huge. And
It is.
I'll share from my thing is empathy is a part of the want, to change the world. But then another part is I'd like for others to be accepting when other people are happy, balanced, or in equanimity, in a really peaceful state. I think it's a challenge that we have within our overall systems and structures where if we see someone happy, it's like they can't be that happy, or if we see someone doing well, we're waiting to bring them down. I'm hopeful that we can move more towards a peace, trusting, and more of an optimistic view of others when they're going through something different, when they're learning, when they're evolving, rather than wanting them to stay the same and not change who they are for the better. And it's kind of a random thought there, but I think that would that'd be a super catalyst for expanding love in the world. So I appreciate everyone being here. I want to give our two wonderful panelists some time to show some love just right now. I mean, wow, the hearts are flying. I'm feeling the love. Leo, I'll start with you. Some couple of final words before we end for the day.
That's perfect what you just said there, Dave. I think the overall thing for me is just don't let nobody or no situation break through your love for yourself. Don't let your balance, the love for yourself, the love that you're doing for your life and the changes that you got to go through your life. And even sometimes we gotta love ourselves first, love yourself first, be strong for yourself first, be resilient for yourselves first, and then, tackle everything that's coming at you. Being emotionally stable is not easy. A lot of people have, smile on their faces, but they're struggling. But I ask people to just be strong. Talk to yourself. I'm stronger. I'm bigger than this. I'm gonna get through this, and I'm gonna find help if I need help, and I'm gonna go through it. I'm gonna fix it. I don't care whatever it takes. It doesn't matter if a tear comes down my eye, but tomorrow I'm gonna be stronger. And I'm gonna love more. I'm gonna, love people more, and just don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on yourself.
Fantastic. Thank you. And we'll end with Renee. What about you?
I love all this. I have learned more from this LifeGuides community than I feel like I brought to you guys. But yes, open your minds and your hearts and give yourself that grace to go through things, to forgive yourself, because as Dr. Lewis says, if we're taking care of ourselves, we can't take care of other people and be there for other people until we've done that for ourselves first. But love this community, love what this is offering. And I'm sorry, I'm reading the chats too. I can't help but hear it. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for being here today. And thank you for all. I've learned so much as well. Such an amazing community. Thank you. And thank you for having me and the opportunity, Dr. Dave.
Glad to have you be a part of it. And thank you for everyone in the chat. I mean, wow, the interaction that we're pulling today. This was a record-setting time. So anyone watching, please like and subscribe, share with your friends. If you found this helpful, share with somebody else. Perhaps they can find it helpful too. And to everyone else, have a wonderful October, and we'll see you next time on LifeGuides Connect. Bye, everyone.